What's up, everyone? I am so stoked to talk to Taylor Welch today, the legend. I don't know if you guys know this, but I actually based my avatar based on Taylor. He had this Thor hammer that was like very inspiring. And so I actually created my avatar based on him. But for those that don't know, he's an international speaker. He has multiple companies. He has 3 best-selling books. And I actually pre-ordered his book that is coming out called The Consultant Next Door. So you definitely want to take advantage of that. He has the #1 training platform called the Sales Mentor. He is just a stand-up guy and just pretty amazing. And what I love about it is he has a company called Wealth Cap Holdings, which is just changing the game for real estate. And without further ado, man, Taylor, thank you so much for jumping on this podcast with me.
Bro, it's amazing to be here. I'm surprised you didn't mention the hair. 'Cause the most people, that's the lead in, but it's amazing to be here. Thank you for having me, Mr. Monopoly.
I appreciate that, man. So I know you have this amazing book coming out called The Consultant Next Door. I've already pre-ordered it. I know you get all these bonuses if you sign up through Amazon. I've already shared it on my profile, my LinkedIn, everything. So you guys definitely want to take advantage of that. And if you're tuning in, definitely check it out. Ask some questions because we will have a Q&A at the very end. So Taylor, I know you have some top-level strategies you're going to share with us today and kind of help people level up their game online.
I would love to. Yeah, I think I've done this presentation called Income, Assets, and Time. I've since changed it to Levels of Wealth. But just for people who are not familiar, I didn't grow up wanting to be an entrepreneur, believe it or not. I think that I have had envy for people who were selling lemonade when they were 10 years old, 11 years old. There's some power players today in the market who have always known they wanted to be an entrepreneur. They always knew they wanted to get rich. But for me, it wasn't that way. I believe it or not, and hopefully you just hang with me for a second. I learned entrepreneurship from my wife. She was a hairstylist. I got into marketing because I realized that if I could help her get more clients, then I could quit my job, stay at home, and be a stay-at-home dad, basically.
That is my goal.
Yeah, that was my vision. But people, when they hear that, they're like, where did you even come from? Like, how did you go from there to this? But long story short, when you learn the rules, the game gets fun and winning is fun. And so what I see today in the market is a lot of people are striving to get an outcome, but they don't know the rules that are required to hit that outcome. And so their lives are not enjoyable. They're not having fun. If you have met us in person, or if you've seen us in person, one of the things we always talk about is how many of you know somebody who works really, really hard, and they're not lazy. They're not lazy as a human being, but they aren't exactly where they want to be in life. And everybody without a doubt raises their hand.
Right.
And that's how you get the honest answer. Because if you ask the audience, are you a really hard worker, but you're not where you want to be, then you're going to get half of the room to raise their hand. But if you flip it, do you know someone? Then everybody's honest. And it really proves the thought that working hard is not necessarily, Gary Vaynerchuk's style of grind it out, although I respect for what he's done, it's not necessarily, it doesn't have the utility that people think it does. You've got to learn the rules. I always tell people that the 3 levels of wealth come down to what you do, okay? Doing it the right way, and then what you own because of what you do. And so if you want to go through my life, 2007, 2008, 2009, and I was poor because I was doing the wrong things. And that's where a lot of people stay stuck. They're just doing the wrong things. They don't know what the right things are to do. Forget doing the right thing the right way. They don't even know what the right thing is to do. Let me tell you that most of those people are hardworking individuals. But if you are the fastest runner in the world and the gun goes off and the race starts and you start running the opposite direction, who's going to win that race?
Not you.
All right. Not you. It doesn't matter. You're doing the wrong things. Number 2 is how do you get rich? You do the right things and you do them consistently. So this was me 2013, 2014, when I started coming up, and I don't know how long you followed us, but probably around 2015, I started getting to the place where we were making some significant income. We were getting richer, but we weren't getting wealthy. The third thing is owning the right assets. So first, you got to learn how to do the right things. You got to do the right things the right way, and then you've got to use that money correctly. Does this make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what I'm all about, is taking my money and reinvesting into income-producing assets. So,
yeah, 100%. Which a lot of people don't ever get to, believe it or not. This is why I think we have a passion for the wealth industry, which you were telling me before. You have a rental portfolio, which is amazing, because a lot of people will get trapped in making a lot of money, but they don't understand what to do with the money. They don't have the language to understand how to master passive income and appreciating assets and all of those things. So we should talk about that, by the way, before we wrap up, because I want to know how you're doing it and all that good stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
We bought about 32, 33 houses last month and are scaling that team just as fast as we can. But there's all this cash flow coming in from the other businesses. And I'm like, man, cash is unproductive. Get rid of it, as fast as you can.
Cash is trash. I mean, you have to reinvest that money because it just with inflation and everything, it just decreases in value. So you constantly need your money working. And I watched a lot of your webinars based on wealth and reinvesting and how you're actually, I think I'm on one of your subscribers list about when you either flip a property or release it and sell it. So I get all those updates. So I'm excited to see what you guys have been doing with everything.
Yeah, cool. So Traffic and Funnels is the kind of the marketing consultancy side of the business. Me and Chris started that business in 2015, September. I think it was September 9th, September 8th, somewhere around there of 2015. We took our very first client and we charged $3,000 to build a funnel for them. It's crazy. Which looking back is like, it wasn't that bad. It was a decent price, but compared to now, it's crazy how far that business has come. Sales Mentor is the sales consultancy side of the business. And then we have a couple other businesses scattered throughout that are, bookkeeping or wholesaling. But all of these businesses have one thing in common, in that the main priority of those businesses is a fountain. It's cash production.
Right. It's
to be able to set yourself up so that you have income. This is interesting when you get into studying the big titans of industry, the big companies, is not all businesses are necessarily created with the same outcome in mind. I'll give you an example of this. We're trying to buy a roofing company in Charlotte right now. And would you be shocked for me to tell you that the profitability of a roofing company is not as high as the profitability of a sales consultancy online? No,
I would not be shocked.
You'd be like, oh, duh. Obviously. Well, it's because the point of that business is not necessarily to create cash.
Right.
It's to reduce expenses.
Right.
And a penny saved is a penny earned. So the reason I'm kind of going at it this way, and let's just take everything a couple levels down and say, like, you don't have to have 9 businesses or 4 businesses. You can have one business, but knowing what the outcome of the business is and where you are in sequence is important. The first thing to get locked in is your ability to generate income. That's it. You've got to lock in your ability to generate income. It doesn't matter if you study Warren Buffett and Ray Dalio and Carl Icahn and the greats. It doesn't matter, because if you don't have anything to play with, you're going to just be stuck with the information, but no implementation. Right. So our ability to generate surplus comes from our ability to solve problems inside of these markets. So what's the problem with Traffic and Funnels? It's that people need more clients. They're great at what they do. They're great at their skill set, but they're like, look, we don't have enough clients. What's the problem with Sales Mentor? Businesses need salespeople. They're like, well, I don't want to train a bunch of salespeople. What's the main value proposition for the bookkeeping business? People want to start bookkeeping businesses. So it's the transference of that information to solve the problem. Inside of our sales teams, we call this problem value. Problem value. This is a framework. So the first thing we do when we get on the phone with someone is, hey, Brandon, this is Taylor. I work for Traffic and Funnels. Do you have 2 seconds? Yeah, I've got 2 seconds. Great. I've got some good stuff we're giving away right now for free. What's the main problem in your business?
Clients.
Getting clients?
Yeah.
Cool. What specifically about getting clients? And you start going down this rabbit hole of problem. If you try to sell a product, but you don't have a clear understanding of what the problem is for the person buying, you'll never be successful at it, because people ultimately are going to be much more reluctant to buy if they're not solving an issue. Right? So problem value. How do you create more income? You solve a better problem, you charge more money for the problem you're solving, or you solve that same problem for more people. Make sense?
Yep.
And if you stop here, you get internet marketers. Like, if you just stop at this level, You get the internet marketing industry, and they're taking pictures in front of yachts and stuff and jets, and they borrowed it all, and then you get the people with this become washed up because they can't work anymore. They didn't do the right thing. I'll never forget. We signed on to a very expensive mentor, and it's the most money we've ever spent on mentorship or education ever. And we built a relationship with this person. And one day, Chris, my business partner, was like, "What's your number one regret?" Which, by the way, is a really, really good question. If you want to utilize the mentors and leaders around you, you've got to take the responsibility of extracting what they've been through, because most people have way more under the surface. You just got to mine for it. And this person said, "My biggest regret is that I didn't learn how to use the money I was making in the 80s and the 90s. Millions and millions and millions of dollars." This is a guy who would wake up and he would carry $30 million cash balances at all times. And he just didn't learn. He didn't learn what to do with it. And so here he is, brilliant, by the way, in old age, still having to work and still kind of just going through the process of earning money. So when you figure out how to make money, you have to learn what to do with that money. And that's the second step, is swapping that currency. You know what a currency is, right?
Of course.
Like, I love watching how macroeconomics plays in with politics and how different currencies play on each other. You look at how the US dollar stacks up to the Chinese yuan and what's going on in the world today. But cash is one currency. It doesn't matter if it's USD or euro or whatever. It's a type of currency. And what we learned to do is we learned to take that money and swap that currency into a different type of asset. So have you ever heard me talk about the term cash equivalents?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
I believe on one of your webinars, actually.
So we just did this with the sales team this morning, and I won't do it here because it would probably be awkward. But I wanted them to. I was like, "How much money do you think I made last month?"
Oh, I saw that post actually. Yeah.
Yeah, some mindset issues. We'll do this all the time, and we'll just get into people's where do they think we are, because that's data for me. If somebody thinks I make $1 million a month,
no, I think I'm like 50 million, right?
Cool, not a month, but roundabouts per year. Yeah.
Right.
But so that was the first question. The second question was, how much money do you think I have actual cash in an account? And it's like $20,000, and they're like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
Yeah. It's nothing. Which $20,000 to 50 million would be like having $7.40 to the average income. And it's because I've learned to take my cash and put it into a more productive format and keep cash equivalents. So cash equivalents are lines of credit, credit cards, different things. If I needed it, I had the money. If you needed it, you had the money, but it's not sitting there burning a hole in your account. Right. And what we'll do is we'll take money every month, we'll move and we'll transfer that currency into an asset, and then we'll backfill the cash with the cash equivalent. Make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That way, we're never at risk. We're never going to be in a position where we needed it but didn't have it. But we're also not risking the flip side, which is, man, I've got $3 million that's not making me anything. It's not appreciating. And therefore, a non-appreciating asset is a depreciating asset because of inflation and all of those good things. So we do that. And then the third piece is just the compound effect of time. And what can you do when you have compound decentralization, constantly replacing yourself with leaders? People want to know, how many hours a week I work, and it's probably a good 40 hours, but 40 hours on a 6-business portfolio that will, without a shadow of a doubt, do $100 million in top line next year. You got to look at this ratio of, like, a lot of people are working 40 hours a week right now for $100,000 a year, or 40 hours a week right now for $600,000 a year. And they get trapped in this mindset of, like, the only way I can double my income is to double the amount of hours I work. And what that causes is they just get stuck.
Right. Or burns out.
Or they burn out 100%. So there's a science called leverage, and it's something you can actually study, and it really is detailed pretty nicely in this book of, like, how do you get your offer? How do you get your offer economics? How do you get the infrastructure for what you deliver to clients removed from you? If you have 10 clients and you're busy, how do you have 100 clients and be not busy? And how to fix all of those things. And then same with the people on the front end of, like, I've got a great expertise. I work a job, but how do I get my first 3 clients? I don't really know how to do that. And we dive into that on the front end of the book. And then we go into, even in the back end, how to think about credit, how to think about credit utilization, how to think about turning time into an asset for you, so that if I fell asleep right now and I was asleep for 25 years and I wasn't able to do anything, I would wake up probably with 8 to 9 times more wealth than what I have right now, because time is a tool for me.
Right.
It's not something I'm working against. And so we go into all of this stuff inside of, it's about 200 pages on how to start, grow, build, and successfully exit, in terms of flipping the income you have. Not exit as term like selling, but how to exit the rat race in terms of flipping the income from a profitable business into appreciating assets, and then living in that legacy pocket long term.
Yeah, and I think it's so, like, I want to kind of go back to what you were talking about currency, and how so many people just sit with cash, and it is inflation that just eats that away, versus you're actually taking that cash and putting it into an income producing asset like real estate. And with time, that asset is appreciating. It's doubling every 10 years, pretty much based on inflation. And I think that is so important. Plus, not only are you getting that, like, cash just sits there hoping you're getting some kind of interest in the bank, but with real estate, I mean, you're getting tax benefits, you're getting depreciation, you already went over that, appreciation, you're getting debt pay down. I don't know if you guys buy it all for cash, or if you actually leverage banks like you were talking about, or leverage other people's money. I know you raise capital and that sort of thing. So there's so many ways that investing and using your money to work for you is so important. You guys definitely need to check out this book. Like, I've already pre-ordered it. It's going to be amazing. And there's so many bonuses attached to it. I don't know if, I got it through an email, but we'll definitely link it in the show notes where you guys can take advantage of those bonuses. But Taylor, wow. I mean, what else do you have for us, man? That was just, oof.
How much time do I have? You tell me.
I have the world, so you tell me.
We can get into our sales methodology. We can get into the real estate acquisition strategies. We can get into how we leverage versus when we don't leverage. You tell me what the
let's do acquisitions.
Okay. The biggest challenge we had when we were getting started was there are a lot of deals on the market. Contrary to popular belief, I think 2020 people thought that the real estate market was going to go down, and actually got really hot. I don't know if you noticed that. So deal flow is plentiful, but the biggest problem we had is getting the amount of volume inside of the buy box. So what a buy box is a set of principles for what we are and are not willing to invest in.
Right.
And to be honest, I don't know where I learned this. I think I might have learned it from Ray Dalio in one of his books, but they all talk about it in terms of having a set of principles and rules for what you're going to invest in. And so our buy box is very simple. We want to have the ability to create a portfolio with a limited cap of down payment. So whether that's 3%, 5%, 10%, 15%, 25%, whatever. And we want to be able to fully leverage out the deals with that minimal down payment and not go above 70% LTV.
Okay.
Loan to value. So what this does is it kind of boxes you in on both sides.
Right.
So rule number one is I'm not willing to pay more than X amount per property. Rule number two is whatever I pay for that property needs to be under 70% LTV, loan to value. Right. So a simple way to put this is like $100,000. If the loan is 70 grand on a $100,000 house, that's a 70% LTV, right? So when going to wholesalers and going through like the normal chains, it was very difficult to find these because everybody's marking deals up to usually 80 to 85% LTV. And so what we did is we ended up paying people to drive through neighborhoods, and they get paid to drive. They would take pictures. We have realtors and wholesalers, but we have probably a dozen people that just drive around the cities that we're in, and they'll take pictures and they'll send it back to us. And we have an office here in Nashville that will call those people and we'll ask them if they're interested in selling their house. So every time we want to go from 30 to 40 houses a month or 40 to 50 houses a month or whatever, all we do is we will add a driver or two and we'll add somebody in Nashville to call and handle those leads.
That's insane. And how are you actually finding, are you doing like reverse searches on the property owner? Are you doing, I can't think of the term right now, where you trace, search them and get
find the phone number?
Yeah.
I think they have a software that does that, and I can find that out. For like if we go VIP in a second, I'll send a Slack and find that out. For a while, we were also doing tax records and going that route as well. We didn't have as much luck on that front though.
And it depends on the county, I believe. Skip Trace, thank you. It depends on the actual county too, because some counties don't release, I believe, the actual owner in some of the tax records. I know in Nevada it does, but I believe in California it might not. So
we're not in California. We're not in California.
I wouldn't.
I would say don't invest in California.
No, I would never invest in California. We just actually moved away from there because of obviously it's high tax, and so we moved to Texas where zero income tax. So it just is another shelter in a sense because it just helps you leverage your money even further. Good.
What part of Texas?
We're in Dallas. We actually just bought a house in Prosper.
Cool. I've got 2 really good investment properties in Dallas right now that I'm rebalancing out of the portfolio. They've been paying us for 15 months, both of them. So if you want them, let me know.
Yeah, we'll have to definitely look into that. We'll talk about that after the show. Okay. So what are your, I know you said you have your LTV, loan to value, where you kind of focus on that. Do you have any other kind of box buys that you actually focus on? Like you want to be able to flip this house, or you hold it for long term, or you want to get rid of it after 5 years and then use that as a 1031 and purchase something bigger? Do you have anything that you're kind of focused on with that too? Or is it just you find your winners, you find your losers, you get rid of your losers every year, every 6 months or whatever, and then reinvest?
We buy everything with the intent of hanging on to it. I don't love the idea of real estate being, at least for now, I don't love the idea of real estate being an income production thing, although it will produce income.
Right.
Because when you pair this up with having a business, whether it's online or whatever, it's a beautiful thing because you don't need the money. You don't need the income. So if you're going to compete against a bunch of other real estate investors, here's how you're going to beat them. If you don't need the income from that property, and you can pay more for the property. You can change around how the buy box works for that property. So we don't have any intentions of exiting. Every couple of months we will rebalance. And what I mean by that is right now we're in Kansas City. We're in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're in, we have maybe 2 or 3 in Dallas. We are in Birmingham, Alabama, and Branson, Missouri.
Wow.
So 4 or 5 main markets. What'll happen is we'll have an acquisitions team that does really, really good in Kansas City. Really, really good. And we'll buy 20 houses from them in a week and a half. And we're like, we don't need all these houses in Kansas City, right? We bought them, but we don't need them because that's going to take the portfolio out of balance. It's now out of balance. And what we'll do is we'll end up flipping 10 of those 20 in Kansas City so that we can bring that balance back to where we want it to be. We're about 25, 25, 25, 25 for the 4 main markets in terms of allocation, where it is. And if you're a one market investor, you have to watch out for a lot of stuff that I don't have to watch out for. You've got to watch out for your vacancies a lot more than I do. You've got to watch out for what zip codes appreciate more, all of this stuff. Charlotte, North Carolina for us is a high appreciation market, but on the spectrum, it's a little bit lower in terms of the cash on cash. Kansas City is a lower appreciation market, but it's higher on the cash on cash. So you can see how these 2 markets together hedge themselves. They balance themselves out.
Right.
That said, after an investor with us, an investor, you're probably in our real estate group, people will come in and we'll pick up inventory and stuff. After an investor gets 3 or 4 houses, we want to start splitting them up so they're not in one market. That way you can have a recession hit Kansas City. It's not going to hit Charlotte, and you still have cash flow coming from Charlotte. We also have people segregate into the fund so that they have a couple houses. They've got a little bit of money into the SEC fund. That SEC fund is lock solid insurance that's going to protect you from any vacancies on the real estate side. I'm not at liberty to say that anything is risk free.
Right.
But when you master the ability to hedge like we've done, the amount of risk inside of these deals, if you have multiple deals, is almost zero. It's probably 1 to 5%.
Well, you split your risk too so much because you have these different markets that allow you to kind of spread your risk. You also have a lot of properties, so you have economies of scale. You're buying to go very back in the very beginning, you have a roofing company that's going to pretty much pay yourself because you're going to be able to either take a loss every year on that and make a substantial amount of money to spread your risk. So there's so much risk aversion that you focus on. And I think a lot of people don't focus on risk aversion in any business, and it's unfortunate. So what are some other strategies you use to do a risk aversion, kind of the topics that I was just talking about?
Most of the risk aversion, or let's say risk mitigation,
right,
is going to come down to how many irons in the fire you have and how hedged you are inside of what you're doing. If you back up and let's look at risk on like a 1, 2, 3 spectrum. On the very, very top level, the definition of risk to me is a lack of knowledge or some lack of experience, right?
Right.
The way that you get knowledge is through experience, and the way that you get experience is through risk. So it's like a cycle here of like, you're going to have to take a little bit of a risk to avoid risk in the future. Right. So I kind of see risk as an actual tangible asset. You invest $100,000 into a piece of property that's tangible, sent through a wire, you invested it. I also see risk as something that's tangible. I'm going to invest this risk into this business, into this company, into this property. It's something you have to play with. The people who don't ever want to invest any risk are all poor. Right. They don't understand the rules. So you don't want to be completely risk averse, but our main strategy for the mitigation of said risk is if there's one area that you could get hurt over here, you want to build another separate area that will pay you if you get hurt.
Right.
So here it is. If we could get hurt on a renter not paying rent, we want to have another source of income that will pay us in the event of that renter not paying rent. They cover each other up. And if you have one risk that's positive, one risk that's negative, and they leverage together to zero, then your risk threshold is zero.
Right.
All right. According to us, not according to the SEC, not according to the FTC, but according to us.
It's just a little disclaimer there. So do you actually use and I haven't done this yet, but have you ever thought of getting actual insurance that if someone doesn't pay you, they actually pay you for having to evict them or non-payment of rent or anything like that?
We haven't. It's not a bad idea. I didn't know that existed. The way that we do it though is I'm going to go back to the team and be like, why haven't you gotten this investment that I learned? We just flip. And so we'll flip a certain percentage of properties to make sure that there's some profit coming in every month. But to be honest, dude, in 2020, the year of COVID-19, our collections rate has been over 95%. So when part of it comes back to just market selection, when you're in Birmingham, Alabama, they don't care. Walmart's the number one employer in Birmingham. So Walmart didn't close anything,
right?
But on the coastals, you're having issues because people have not worked. But even Dallas, man, we haven't missed one rent payment in Dallas in the entire year of 2020.
Yeah, we haven't had any issues either. I'm in Vegas, and as much as that's it's a very entertainment-driven market. We haven't had. I want to say it's 100%. Obviously, I'm not as big of a portfolio as you. We only have 10 units, but when the grand scheme of things, we haven't had one missed payment, one late payment, nothing. So it's been phenomenal. Yeah, it's been amazing. So want to get into this last thing because a lot of people actually don't find insurance as a way of investing. And I know you heavily invest in life insurance and some other vehicles. What are kind of those vehicles that you use to either spread risk, create cash flow, or just use it as a vehicle to make more money?
Yeah, so whole life insurance is one of the best long-term vehicles I think that's we've ever had. My policies, there's this IBC infinite banking concept thing that's kind of gotten big with internet marketers. I don't do any of that, but I don't have anything against it either. The thing I want is I want my policies to be able to be paid for when I know that the cash is coming in. So nobody really knows. Like we don't. How many people do you know who got rich and then aren't rich anymore? It's like I don't want to be that person.
Right. Me too.
So who knows if when I'm 65 years old, if I'm still going to want to have businesses and be paying that premium on that IBC policy? I don't think I do. So what I do is all of mine are 10 pays or 15 pays or 20 pays. Some of them are longer, but they're big whole life policies. I buy everything in term and then we convert them to whole life. And what whole life does is it offers you something that you need anyways. You need a death benefit if you have a family or people care about you, or people you care about that you want to be able to go on living after you're gone. And so Dave Ramsey thinks that you should have term because he gets paid by his term providers. And he's a nut. And that's dumb. But whole life gives you the same term benefit. It gives you the death benefit, which term gives you, but it also builds a cash value. So, for example, let's say you have a $10 million whole life policy. That policy will cost you $3 million. So this is why David Ramsey doesn't like it. He's got it. Guarantee you he has it. He just doesn't like it. Because when you're at the bottom of, when you're struggling to pay off debt, you can't afford whole life. But this policy will cost you $3 million. And then that $3 million will earn you a dividend, and usually it's between 5 to 7%, and that is it's a tax-free income opportunity for you because you will loan yourself that money from your cash benefit, your cash basis of the fund. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So when you have $3 million built up inside of a cash policy, what is that? 5%. Let's just see. $150,000 a year without it's tax free. Right. So that 150K is equivalent to 400 grand ish. 300 if you're in California in terms of buying power. You're gonna pay 50% in taxes. But then you can loan yourself up to 95% of that policy. So you've got a bank. You don't have to necessarily take out loans or anything like that. You can just, I want this house, I want this car, I want what it is. You can loan yourself that money and the policy will continue earning a dividend. So it will continue paying you. So rather than paying a bank, 12, 18 or real estate paying them 7% over 30 years, you're going to still pay yourself that dividend and be able to fully leverage out that policy. In addition, if you take out a loan and buy a house and you die, then your family's going to have to pay that loan back. Right. Any loan you take from yourself from the whole life policy is paid for in your death benefits. You don't have to worry about it. This is how Rockefellers can skip generational trends and pass on wealth down to their kids and their kids and their kids. And they've got these massive policies. They basically invented this. And I tell people it's legal money laundering. It's legal money laundering. The government approves it. It's all set up the right way. And so that is bolted on in our asset strategy because that is a guarantee. These whole life policies were around before the Civil War, so they're not going anywhere. Make sense?
Yeah, and I think it's so important that, just to go back to the very first kind of topic where you're talking about cash equivalencies, where you're not having to use a line of credit for a bank. You actually can leverage this whole life policy to buy real estate or to buy cars or whatever, and then pay yourself back. And you can have all these lines of credit, but there's just so many ways you can leverage other things and other vehicles that are just straight up amazing. So you guys definitely need to check out Taylor Welch's book, The Consultant Next Door. It's in pre-order right now. I've already got my copy, so I'm so excited to actually have it sent to me. You guys definitely need to sign up, get all the bonuses. They'll be linked in the show notes. Taylor, you were amazing, man. It's been a pleasure. I've always been a big fan of yours, so thank you so much for jumping on and sharing some knowledge with us today.
You got it, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, bud. I'll talk to you soon.
See ya.